Hi, today I'm going to show you how to modify the one-click control rig by Josh Toonen. It's a great way to get up and started for previs work, but there's an issue with it in that the characters that you use have to go to Mixamo to be rigged with the Mixamo skeleton, and then you can apply the animations to that. The problem is Mixamo's auto rigger will often stretch and deform parts of your character, and it's not that it's a bad thing, it doesn't look as great as it could. So I think it would be good to start out with the mannequin. We're just going to redo the mannequin, only we're not going to use the mannequin control rig. We're going to use the one-click control rig on the mannequin skeleton. Let's go ahead and get started, I guess. This is the modified version of the one-click control rig. The rig hierarchy is here. And before we dive into starting to put this thing together, I want to show you the changes that I made to the one-click control rig. The first thing I did was put in this node called import skeleton. And what that'll do is it'll procedurally load in the skeleton that you want to use for this control rig. The other thing I did was I changed the location of where these finger controls live. On the one-click control rig, the fingers live inside the skeleton here, but then the rest of the control rig lives outside of the skeleton. And all I did was find where these controls live in the skeleton. So these are the finger joints, right? The controls for the fingers. And they live underneath the right hand. So in my version, I stuck those same controls underneath the left hand control so that it still drives the controls as expected. And then the other things that I changed, I'll get to in a little bit when we start swapping out the bone names. That's pretty much the bulk of all I changed for this. Yeah, let's go ahead and get our mannequin in here. So in order to do that, there's several ways. You can just do import hierarchy. You can do like Josh Toonen does and refresh and add well, I'll just do it here. You can add it right here, your SQ. I'm gonna go with the simple one because it has less bones to mess with. And there he is. The other way you can do it is you can come over here, preview mesh, and put it in here. So there's multiple ways to do it. But one thing I want to show you first is when you do that by default, it loads in the skeleton, right? It imported the rig hierarchy. What we want to do is we want to delete all the white ones. Let me come in here. Yeah, just grab all those and delete them. Because this node right here, this import skeleton node, is loading those same bones in procedurally. And that's going to let us use this same rig across multiple characters that share the same skeleton. And moving on, the biggest thing to do now is come through and find all of these bones. They'll be in red. See here. Yeah, see this red. It's because this is looking for bones from the previous skeleton that I saved this from. This is the part where you're going to have to come through manually to all the get and set nodes. Not for the controls, because those don't change, just for the bone names. So here it's actually looking for the pelvis bone. Sometimes it'll be the hip bone. Sometimes your skeleton might not have a pelvis or a hip. It'll just start with spine or spine 1. So everyone's going to be different, and that's what makes this not as user-friendly as the one-click control rig is by default with the same Mixamo skeleton. So I'm going to come through and just start going through and plugging these all in. I'm going to record the whole thing, so it's going to be long and boring. But if you stick with it, then we'll learn stuff as we go, because I'm sure I'm going to run into gotchas on this thing too that were different from the last one I did. So this one also, the cog is looking for the hip bone. So I'm just going to plug it in here. And then you see the control for the cog hopped over here. Now if you try to move it, nothing's going to happen yet because the forward solve hasn't been set up yet. It's not going to drive. Well, I guess some of these bones actually share the name as the last one I did, so maybe they're still connected. But for the most part, they're not going to start to move until later. If you want to get it back to where it was, you just hit compile and it should pop back. So moving on here. These are these item arrays store all the bones. So you can add to these arrays. Let me click on this here and go to the details panel. If you want to add, I wouldn't suggest it right here, but it'll come in handy later. If you want to add an extra slot to your array, you can do that here. If you want to get rid of them, you can delete it right here. Or actually, it's probably better to, I guess you just remove all the elements. No, you do it here. Remove array element. Yeah, that way you can do it one by one without killing all of them all at once. Okay, anyway, so this is looking for the left. No, this is actually, this is from the old, see the They didn't have a thigh bone or an upper leg bone. They called it L hip for some reason. But really that should be the thigh bone. So that's what we need to go find next. So this is the left side. I'm gonna grab the left thigh bone, plug it in here. And this is actually gonna set up the IK chain. So we're giving it all of the leg chain here for it to figure out the IK part. So I put that all in, and then this one I left it collapsed because this is just the controls. So you have an array for the controls, and then you have an array for the bones. See, bone, bone, bone. And it's the bones that you'll need to update. So I just left this one collapsed for you so you don't have to worry about it. And left this one open because it'll have the bones that you need to change. And same thing here, this is looking for the end of, whatever this one is in slot 3, the end of the chain is what you're gonna plug in here. So it'll be the same ball joint goes right here. And then come on over here. Now we need the ball joint for the right side. So I'll close that up, grab this ball joint, plug it in. And that looks like it's the legs done because, yeah, okay, because these were already named. So that's good. And you can hit compile as you go. It's not gonna hurt anything. And come over here, and now we're gonna work on the spine. So we'll start with spine 1 and come up here, 2, 3. And then this one is looking for the neck. But this skeleton actually has extra spine joints. And if you wanted to, this is where you could come in here, select this, and add an extra element right here. Plug in spine 04 and 05 and let that be a part of this chain. I'm not gonna do it right now, just because I wanna, just kind of want to get through this and show you the basics. But if you wanted to be detailed with it and go through and perfect your rig, you could definitely do that. So just plug in the neck here, then grab the head here. And then I'll compile, these should go away. Next is the clavicle. This guy. Okay, so these are for the bones for the fingers. And one thing I want to point out here is when I was doing this on the previous rig, I was working with a Ninja Turtle, and a Ninja Turtle only has 3 fingers. So I had the thumb bone, the index bone, and the ring finger bone. This is where I went through and I removed extra array elements that I didn't need. But here, since we're dealing with a 5-finger character, we should probably go put them back in. So we have the thumb, we have the index, we need the middle finger. So let's go find the middle. And this is the right side, so let's get to the right side. For the ring we have, pinky we'll need, middle, here we go. So I'm gonna select this. I wanna add 3 for the middle. So 1, 2, 3. And then these are gonna be bones, just like the others. And then here, I'm gonna slot in, oh, I guess it's already selected. Maybe this will work. That work? Yeah, cool. And I could also do the same thing here, I think. So that's got the middle right. Why it's red. Anyways, 2, 3. This one isn't. Let's just try to redo it. There we go. Okay, compile. So now we got their fingers in there. And the other thing too about this is, I believe, yeah, you can reorder these. So if we want thumb, index, middle, you can just drag and drop. Keep it organized for yourself. And then we'll do 3 more for the pinky. So I go 1, 2, 3. Again, these will be bones. And then on here, open these up and go find our pinky. One thing you can do is hit this little search bar next to the ring. Well, you should be able to. It should pop you. Okay, that's fun. It should pop you to wherever that control is over here in the hierarchy. It just makes things faster, but it didn't work for me. Oh well. So now we want pinky right. Okay, plug it in and compile. And that should be those fingers. Now here's the other thing. We updated the bones here, but now we also have to go and find the controls. What are these? All right, here they are. So now we have to modify these controls so that they match the bones. And put them side by side here. That way it won't have a mismatch when it's trying to find these. So we know we need to add, let's see if these work. If I want to find, where's my index? Ah, there, see, it popped and found it. That's cool. Thumb, 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 index, we need middle and pinky. So I'm gonna select this guy again. I'm gonna add, make these all bone. So that's the construction event. Now we need to do the same thing for the forward solve. So if I hit forward solve now and compile, when I hit compile, the rig goes all out of whack. So if your character starts to wig out and looks like a, a sine wave, I guess, I don't know. This probably has to do with your joint orientation, and I'll show you that in a little bit as well when we get to it. Okay, so now we've done the, I'm just gonna forward solve, compile, and save. So we've done the construct event, we've done the forward solve, and then the last one we need to do is come up here and do the backward solve. And backward solve is where you can toggle your IK switches. These are just booleans, so either they're on or they're off. And this will let you toggle between default FK or default IK. And they're here for the feet and for the hands. And by default, when you bake to the control rig, instead of having it all in FK, it'll just all be in IK. That's where you can set that. And then you can also override it in the sequencer, but maybe we'll look at that later too. Okay, so back to the cog, we want the pelvis bone. Okay, so now the next thing we need to do is figure out what's going on with these pole vectors. Real quick, we can kind of test it and see, is the skeleton at least behaving like we expect it to? So yeah, the foot, you can see the knee bending right here. Not the geometry, but the actual skeleton. It's doing what it should be doing. And then if I grab the cog, remove it, yeah, so it's behaving like it should. Okay, cool. Compile, and that'll all pop back to where it was. Okay, so when you're building a skeleton, you put the bones in a specific orientation, and sometimes they're different depending on who's doing the rigging. So what you can do is come over here. This is I think it's under the forward. Yeah, the forward limb IKFK. If I open this is where the FK and IK switching happens. Okay, so let's see, this is for IK2 bone. What I'm doing is I'm trying to figure out if this is an arm or a leg. We might just have to play with it. But you can see right here, there's a -1 on the y-axis. I'm sure there's a good way to figure this out, but for me, I just kind of experiment. So if I pop this to +1, well, that didn't work. So I'll go 0. Well, 0 fixed my leg, it looks like. What does this give me? That's no good. What about a +1? That's no good. What about Z1? That's no good. -1. So 0 on that guy looks like it does a good job on my leg. No, that's not a good job. Okay, let's make sure. Yeah, okay. Wow. I'm gonna put that back to -1 for now. Let's jump over here to the skeletal mesh and check out what the bones are actually doing. So I have a suspicion, since the primary axis works on half of the skeleton, it works as -1, and then the other side works as +1. I have a suspicion that, I have a suspicion that the orientation of the bones is off. And that can happen sometimes if a skeleton is mirrored from one side to the other, or something where, if you notice, the z-axis here is pointing up and out, and the x-axis is pointing down along the bone chain on this left arm. If I select this side, you'll see that the z-axis is pointing down and to the right, and the x-axis is pointing up towards the head, opposite of the bone chain. And that would explain why the -x, or -1 on the x and +1 on the x, that's why it works on one side of the chain and not the other. So that means we're gonna have to do a little bit of work. And I think the same thing probably is true for the legs here. So yeah, the x is pointing down along the chain, and over here, it's pointing up away from the chain. So that means I need to figure out how to plug in the -1 side of the bones into this IK2 bone function. And then I need to have one for a +1, so that when we're toggling back and forth between them, see right now the -1 is working on the side that's pointing away from the bone chain, just like that x is pointing away from the bone chain. And then over here, if I swap this to +1, now this side breaks and this side should work properly. Yeah, okay. I don't know why my fingers don't go along with it anymore. Real quick, let's see. Let's get main joints. This is an array. I wonder what all array 0, 1, and 2. Let's just see what they got going on. Get a print node here. Needs an executable. Let's see. Out of the sequence node, this B isn't being used. So this execute can come in and it goes through the A side and the C side, but this B isn't being used. So I can just steal from this for now. And then I can plug in what exactly is in this array at index of 0 is what this is saying. And it's the upper arm left and right, and the thigh right and left. So it's the upper bones of both arms and both legs are somehow being driven into this bone A. So this is setting up the IK chain. So I'm guessing this one at index 1 will be the middle arms, like the forearm, lower arm and the calf. And then this one will be the hands and the feet, left and right. It's a neat little trick where you can get all of the body. If this were symmetrical, if both sides, the joints were facing the same, not opposite on one side and versus the other. That's why this works well for Mixamo, because I bet that skeleton, all the joints flow in the same orientation. And this also worked well for my Ninja Turtle because the bones flowed in the same orientation. But this skeleton, this mannequin skeleton, is an opposite. So we have to figure out how to get bones from one side into here and bones from the other. I think probably the easiest thing to do, we'll build a node for the left arm, a node for the right arm, because I don't know how this is reading all the uppers into one single IK2 bone function, and it works somehow. Anyway, my brain is more, you gotta kind of break it out for me to understand things. I think what I'll do is I'll disconnect this for now. And I'm disconnecting by holding Alt and clicking on these lines, these noodles. And I'll probably disconnect all of these for now. It's kind of scary. And then I'll take these and I'll move them over here so I can have a template kind of what they had. And now I got to figure out how to do the bones. We could probably still use an array. Yeah, item array for a hierarchy. Let's try this. And we're gonna add, this is like what we were doing with all the finger bones. It's the same thing. So I know I need a control. Let's get the pull vector of the left arm and we'll do, I think it's an at. Is that how they're doing? Yeah, okay, sorry. Forgot where it was. They're coming out of this array and they're doing an at to break them out. So at index 0, at index 1. Let's try that. We'll come out of here. We'll say at index 0, since this is index 0 right here. It's our pull vector. Let's try to plug this guy in here. Okay, so then now we need bone A. We'll add one of these. This time it'll be a bone, and we want to get the upper arm on the left side. And then we'll do another at index of 1 this time is our upper arm. We'll plug this into bone A, and then we'll add another one, which will also be a bone. We want the lower arm left, and we want another at index 2 to go to bone B, and then we want to do the hand bone at and bone C, and then we need the end control, which should be the hand control. Actually, I think this is probably not the control that we want. Do we have the IK? Yeah, the left arm IK control, I bet, is what we want there. Since we're building an IK, let's try that and see what we get. Index 4. We'll plug that guy in there. Ooh, is it gonna work? Let's try this. Oh, that looks broken. Sorry. Whoever's watching this is probably yelling at me. Hey, you forgot. You forgot to add that guy. Let's see. What do we get? Oh, still broken. There we go. So I had the axis flipped. Okay, so this looks good. Only I don't know why my fingers aren't going along for the ride. Why would that be? Is it because my fingers are underneath my hand? While we're here and I'm looking, you see how these controls are facing the wrong way. They should be going around the body, not up and through the body. That has to do with the rotation here on the shape transform. You can change the location, the rotation, the scale of these control shapes, right, for your control rig. So if I zero this out, see it just rotated it that way. Which way? There we go, I guess, 90. It's for my pelvis. So I can update these, the orientation of these controls. And there you go, there's the spline. Let me do rotate. Oh, there, he's working properly. I'll just compile that to reset it. But the control shape should stay the same. I'm wondering if I can't see the FK stuff because maybe it's too small. Maybe it's hidden. Let's just make it like, no, what was it? Oh, probably helps if I do this, maybe. No, I can't find that guy. Should be there. It says he should be there. Oh, it's the visibility. Ah, look at that. 1.5. Okay. That's that by default, but also the rotation is off on this guy again. Let's try 90 on this. Yeah, okay. So that may be why I couldn't see him. That makes sense. Make these visible. And what I'm doing here, what I'm curious of is if I manipulate the FK controls, will the fingers go along with it? Is there something going on with the IK? Can't see. Oh, visible. Duh. Okay. So I'll compile this, and if I rotate this guy, oh look, that's really weird. What happens? Let's just see if I drag these finger controls and I put them under the left arm IK just to test. And I forward solve, compile, and then I grab this. Will the fingers go along? Fingers do go along. So that works. Somehow FK isn't working properly, but I guess we'll cross that bridge later. At least we know now that rebuilding this for each arm and leg should work for our IK stuff. So what I'm going to do now is copy paste this, and I'm probably just going to come up here where I got space, and then outside of, I can toggle that guy down now. Oh, I guess at some point I had disconnected this guy. That was probably why the FK stuff wasn't working properly. Okay, so that all works. Now I gotta, now I want to see what happens if these hands, or these fingers, if I put them back under the hand control instead of the IK. Will they still travel, or will it still be broken? Okay, they travel properly now that this has been reconnected. Okay, yeah. So now what I want to do is I want to bring this up into here, and then I want to reconnect this down to here before I forget again. And this time we'll swap all of this out for the right side and see if we can get that right arm working properly. So this time we want the pull vector of the right arm, then we want the upper arm for the right side, the lower arm for the right side, the hand for the right side, and the IK control for the right side, arm pull vector. And then this time we'll want to flip the primary axis to -1. We'll compile, and both the arms look correct now, which is good. If I move this, it behaves as expected, which is good. Okay, all right. So I think this is going to be the trick that we had to do, because now we just need to get the legs going, because they're not hooked up to anything right now, and we should be pretty good. So again, I'll just copy this, I'll paste it, and then we'll go through and we'll start on the left leg, and then we'll do the right leg. And I'll go ahead and get these executions plugged up. So this time we want the pull vector for the foot, left foot. Then we want the thigh, left side. Then we want the calf, left side, foot, left side, and the control, the left foot IK control. And then compile. Actually, I think this is probably, yeah, it works. I thought this would need to be +1. What is this one? Since it's left side, +1. Oh, no, that makes sense. Because the right hand and the left foot were both on the -1. So then the right foot will need to be a +1. So confusing. Okay, Then last, should be the last time, come over here, I'll paste, and I'll plug in our pins. See if I can grab this guy. Okay, and then now we're going to do leg pull vector. We want to do the right foot pull vector. And then we want to do the thigh right, calf right, foot right, and then the IK control for the right foot IK control. And that's still broken because we have to flip this back to +1. Okay, so now my legs work, my hands work. Yay. Okay, cool. And the only thing we have to do now is just go through and clean up these actual controls and get them oriented in the right look or in the right place. And so again, you can just select these controls. I'll zero that out. I'll put this at 90. That should be okay for that guy. And then the same here. And then this is my neck control. And I don't know where my head control is. Maybe it's too little in there. 0, 90. If I can find you. Oh, -1000. So that might be, yeah, okay. The Ninja Turtle, see, my head is way over there. Oh, and look, that's where all the rest of my controls are. Okay, this makes sense. So the Ninja Turtle rig, it was made in Blender, I believe. And when you export from Blender, a lot of times Blender, their units are a lot larger than the Unreal Engine units. So when you bring it straight in from Blender to Unreal Engine, a lot of times it's huge. So my Michelangelo Ninja Turtle rig that I was working on with the stretchy shell, that when I brought that into Unreal was like Godzilla next to this mannequin in terms of size. So these controls, it makes sense that some of these are set with large offsets like this. See, I just got to reset it is all. And I think, was this 2? No, 3. That looks pretty good. So the rest of these controls, they might have the offsets because it's a holdover from the Ninja Turtle size. So if you're coming from Blender, it does help if you scale it down to like 0.01 when you bring it into Unreal or when you export it from Blender. That's kind of another story, but that's the reason why all of those controls are so far away. And so I bet if I bring these back, yeah, also -1000. See, there it is. It's rotated the wrong way here as well. 90, 90, okay, yeah, that works. And then this is the left side, so I want to give it an offset on the x-axis, it looks like. So I can just nudge it over here, and we'll just do, what do you think, 12? And then maybe bring it down a little so it's not so huge. Looks pretty good, right? And then this guy is still invisible. I don't know what's going on here. I wonder if the visibility is being set. It might be that it's being set in here. Oh, look at that. What is this control? It's the up leg control. Oh, 30, yeah, okay. So let's go 3 on that guy. 0, 90. Okay. That's weird that it was just that way. Oh, look, and then all the rest of them are here, where they should be now. But there we are. There's your one-click control rig on the mannequin skeleton. So, I mean, yeah, you'd probably just want to use the regular mannequin skeleton, but, you know, just to show the workflow and all the little gotchas that can happen along the way, it just makes it kind of tricky to figure out sometimes, but if you stick with it, you can figure it out, and now you got a one-click control rig for the mannequin. So let's test it out and see what happens. Okay, I'm going to get, where is my skeletal mesh for my mannequin? Okay, here he is. I'll zero him out, and then hop up to my content. I'll make a level sequence, cinematics level sequence. We'll call this test. And actually, let's also grab, is this where my, yeah, okay. Let's grab my Mixamo character here. And I have an animation. Do I have an animation? T-pose. I got an animation somewhere. Let's make a folder. And then export. Okay, let's try this. So I'm going to load in an animation for the Mixamo character. I'm going to do import only animation, and I'm going to choose the Mixamo, the Mixamo skeleton. And I'm gonna open up this level sequence. I'll bring in the Mixamo character, and I'll bring in our Manny character. Oh wow, look, it automatically picked a control rig for that guy. Actually, let me just get rid of this guy. Let me bring him back in just to make sure it's all clean. So I get my mesh for my skeletal simple. Oh, wait, did I delete the wrong one? I did. Here, there we go. Here, let's start over. So I'm gonna grab my simple one, my simple Manny, and then I wanna grab my Mixamo character here. Okay, then I wanna grab both of these and bring them over here. Let's get my X spot rocking out. And this is, we'll extend it the whole time. So if I play it, Mixamo character is rocking out over there. And we want the same thing for our mannequin right here, right? So what I need to do is take this animation and I want to retarget this animation to my Manny simple skeleton. Yep. And I wonder if it can do it on its own. Sometimes you have to. Yeah, okay, cool. There it is. So I want to export the animation. We'll stick it inside the animation folder with the prefix of, we'll do MA for Manny export. Now I have a, oh, I don't like, okay, whatever. Forgot to give it an underscore. There we go. Cool. So if I hop over here and I have my Manny, I can give him my rock out, and they both should be rocking out now. All right, so that's cool. Now I want to take this and I want to bake it to our one-click control rig modified. This is the one-click control rig that we just built, and it's on our mannequin skeleton. So now I can come over here and I can do an additive control rig, let's say, and grab his hand and say, well, it's kind of close to the body there. Let me go back to the first frame. It's kind of close to the body there, and I want it to be, oh, I got snapping on, let me turn that off. I want it to be maybe like this, and I'll just set a keyframe there. Maybe I want his cog, I want it to be down a little bit more, and spread his feet out a little bit. Oh, I just like to put a keyframe on these two, sorry, just to make sure they hold. Spread his feet out a little bit here, maybe move this one back in space, maybe this one forward in space. Okay, so clearly a different pose from that. Oh, let me just make sure I keep my feet here. And okay, my arm, everything's keyed. Okay, cool. So now we have our mannequin rocking out. We've changed his pose, and now I want to bake this animation sequence. I want to put it back in, put it in my Mixamo just to keep it simple. We'll call this modified rocker, and then export to animation. So now I can delete this control rig, delete this animation, and then I can add my modified rocker. It kept the pose there. So we know our construction event works, we know our forward solve works, so we know our backward solve works for this one-click control rig on our mannequin skeleton. And there it is. So yeah, it's not easy, it's not user-friendly, but if you stick with it and you just kind of troubleshoot, you can definitely use the one-click control rig on pretty much any skeleton that you come across for your production.